The following is a DW Ancient Egypt production. Constructed under the supervision of her steward, Senenmut, Hatshepsut's temple took its basic inspiration from the 12th Dynasty temple of Mentuhotep II, adjacent to the site on the south. When completed, it was unique to Egyptian architecture. As described by Peter Clayton, the temple was built largely of limestone. It rose in 3 broad, colonnade-fronted terraces to a central rock-cut sanctuary on the upper terrace. The primary dedication was to Amun, but there were also smaller shrines to Hathor and Anubis, respectively located on the south and north sides of the second terrace. A feature of the temple was its alignment to the east directly with the great temple of Amun across the Nile at Karnak. The site of her temple had originally been a small cave shrine to the goddess Hathor. Queen Hatshepsut legitimizes her rule through a propaganda relief on her temple known as the Birth Relief. This was located on the walls of the northern half of the middle terrace. It displays the god Amun, disguised as her father Thutmose I, who visits her mother. The results of this visit is that her mother is pregnant from Amun with Hatshepsut. The point of this depiction is that her father is really the god Amun. She is divine, just like the pharaohs. All pharaohs state that they are the son of Ra. She states the same thing, but in a different way. This relief also shows her with the false pharaonic beard. Something to note about this depiction on the wall of her mortuary temple is that the sculptures got it wrong. Usually, when the pharaoh tells his divine birth, they show the pharaoh and his soul, his ka, being created on a potter's wheel. The myth is that the god Hanum, a ram-headed god who was the potter, creates everybody out of clay on a potter's wheel, very similar to Adam from the Old Testament of the Bible. Adam means clay in Hebrew. Hanum is always shown creating the ka of the king and the king himself, 2 little doubles on a potter's wheel, and it's a standard scene. These sculptors worked to create this, but must have used a template because for Hatshepsut, they are both little boys. You can see that they are naked. They should have used little girls for Hatshepsut, but she must not have minded, for the scene remains, the standard birth scene as with all other pharaohs. On the upper terraces of Hatshepsut's temple at Deir el-Bahari, the central sanctuary was dedicated to the god Amun-Ra, whose principal place of worship was the Karnak temple. During a yearly festival called the Beautiful Feast of the Valley, the god's image was transported across the river to the west bank. Carrying Amun-Ra in his sacred bark, the festival procession followed a roadway lined with sphinxes that led to Hatshepsut's temple. On the middle terrace, the pathway was flanked by colossal kneeling statues that represented Hatshepsut as the ideal Egyptian king. Some of the statues were depicted wearing the white crown of Upper Egypt. Images in which Hatshepsut adopts this masculine attire coincide with her increased claims to power and seem to have been one of several methods by which she sought to legitimize her rule. Unlike most representations of Hatshepsut as ruler, there is a statue that has a distinctly feminine air. In this life-size statue, Hatshepsut is shown wearing the Nim's headcloth while maintaining her feminine qualities. The kingly titles on the sides of the throne are feminized to read, "The Perfect Goddess, Lady of the Two Lands, and Bodily Daughter of Ra," a practice that was dropped later in her reign. Traces of blue pigment are visible in some of the hieroglyphs on the front of the statue, and a small fragment on the back of the head shows that the pleats of the Nim's headcloth were originally painted with alternating blue and yellow pigments. The inscription on another statue indicates that Hatshepsut was offering Amun Ma'at, translated as order, justice, or truth. By making this offering, Hatshepsut affirmed that Ma'at was the guiding principle of her reign. She wears the Nim's headcloth and the false beard that are part of the regalia of a king. With her title as King of Egypt no longer contested, Hatshepsut re-established the trade routes that had been disrupted during the Hyksos period, thereby building the wealth of the 18th dynasty. The most famous expedition, as recorded on the walls of her temple, was sent to the land of Punt, notably for frankincense and myrrh. The relief on the wall displays a realistic depiction of the Queen of the Land of Punt, Queen Ati. The delegation returned with 31 live Mortuaries, the roots of which were carefully kept in baskets for the duration of the visit. This was the first recorded attempt to transplant foreign trees which were planted in the courts of her mortuary temple complex. Hatshepsut was one of the most prolific builders in ancient Egypt, commissioning hundreds of construction projects throughout the country. At Karnak, she erected 2 twin red granite obelisks, which were, at the time, the tallest in the world. One still stands as the tallest surviving ancient obelisk, the other has broken in 2 and toppled. Their removal from the quarries at Aswan is recorded on the walls of her mortuary temple and is about the only scene we have of how they transported them. They were created at Aswan in 7 months, then placed on a barge, end to end, and towed by 27 ships, with 3 pilot ships leading until they were unloaded at Karnak. At the base of her obelisk, she called herself the female falcon. Remember that the falcon represented the pharaoh. Although she sometimes depicted herself as a male ruler, she was not masquerading as one. She was proud to be female, but definitely a female who ruled Egypt. Hatshepsut created the Red Chapel at Karnak. What is interesting is that she is shown side by side with Thutmose III. The meaning behind this is unknown. During her reign, Thutmose III is silent. Did she usurp the throne against his will? Did he ever wish to take the throne from her? Or did he feel comfortable with her in power? He was most likely away training in the army and could have possibly taken power any time, but the details are unknown. He would later strive to erase her name during his reign, but this would occur 20 years after her death.